In the moonlit embrace of rural Victoria, the decadent town of Buckley beats with a hidden heartbeat, the sanctuary of free-willed kindred. An anarch haven since the gold rush, Buckley's shadows hold secrets, its nights untamed. Yet the looming spectre of the Camarilla now threatens the delicate balance. As long-forgotten feuds simmer, a group of neonates bound by loyalty and survival find themselves at the epicenter of a power struggle. The Camarilla's tendrils tighten, and Buckley teeters on the brink of open war. Welcome to the dance of shadows in Buckley, where the anarch flame flickers against the encroaching night, a tale of defiance, politics, and the seductive allure of eternal power. This is Creatures Such As We, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast, presented by DM Fiat. I am your storyteller, Dale, or DG, and tonight I shall be your guide through this hidden and treacherous world of darkness. Welcome back, family. Monsters, creatures such as we. You're on the prowl, you're on the hunt tonight. You know that Wisteria's sire Thaddeus waits in his new haven, the Church of the Guiding Light. From your interrogation of the sheriff and his pathetic little hound, you learned enough to confirm that that is indeed the case. That you could make your way to the church right now and start making moves, but there is, of course, the question of Mr. O. Orson Forrest, faithful ghoul of Thaddeus, and, once upon a time, faithful ghoul of Baron Wild. And so, in order to cover all possible bases, the coterie decided they're going to go for Mr. O, the last lead you have, who may have information that could make the difference between life and death. You may be immortal monsters now, but the saying, it's better to be safe than sorry, still applies. And so, that brings us to tonight's activities. At this time of night, anywhere that's not Buckley's CBD is silent, empty, quiet as a tomb. Barry has tracked Mr. O out into the eastern suburb of Langdon. Langdon is beyond the border that separates the city in two halves. This is Camarilla territory. However, it hasn't yet been swept up in the gentrification and faux presentability that has gripped the CBD and the financially well-to-do suburb of Atherton and the other areas where the Camarilla have entrenched themselves. Rather, Langdon is what passes for Buckley's still functioning industry sector. It's a big expanse of nothing but warehouses, meat packing plants, car lots, and small factories that churn out cheap plastic goods, pencil cases, and backpacks. And during the night, when no one's working, it is empty. The only lights to light your way are the street lights. The buildings are shuttered, quiet, sleeping. And yet there still is a sense that you're being watched by something you cannot see, that the city itself is observing, anticipating bloodshed, anticipating something terrible. It knows monsters are on the loose. And so we come to Barry.
What's it like in Barry's car?
Ooh, good question.
Is it like crowded full of crap? Is it
yeah, it's got like well, in the boot you've got the laboratory, like the mini forensic laboratory.
Okay.
And it's all like tinted out as fucking. It's just like, it's organized chaos.
There's an order to it, but you'd have to be Barry for it to make sense.
Exactly, yeah, because it's like files and like photo negatives and sort of filed away like underneath back seats. It's not extremely comfortable to sit in. It's just, you know what?
She's probably riding shotgun unless you had any objections.
Ooh. Actually, no. I think shotgun he reserves for someone else. So I think he might be sitting in the back. So I might have to look at you through the back view mirror.
All right, that works. So we open and Wisteria's sprawled, trying to get as comfy as she can on the pile, legs jammed up against the seat. No seatbelt, of course. There's no place to click it in, even if she could get it to work in the current arrangement, with the occasional slide teetering over and falling in her lap, and her primly packing it up and putting it back. There's kind of a low-key frustration on her face, though she kind of has resting supervillain face any way you slice it. So it may be hard to notice. She keeps studying Barry in the rearview mirror. Well, isn't this fun? It seems to me this is a bit of a risk, really. I'm not entirely convinced it's a necessary one, either.
If we get Mr. O, we're one step closer to finding our size. And that's one step closer than we are right now.
I know where mine is. I mainly agreed to go after O because he might give away a secret that we don't know. And when you find out he's Black's allied with people who can throw fire around, you kind of want to know where all the fire traps are. Maybe he does. You know why I came along? I'm subjecting myself to this CSI torment.
No.
It's because I think we need to have a talk. Relax, not that sort of talk. We don't have that kind of relationship.
Let's look over at the passenger seat. No, we definitely do not.
I'm not your type, and I'm nobody's type for that matter. Save my own. But you're the other one who sees the big picture here.
What do you mean by that?
Black. Asayas aren't goals, they're stepping stones. You know where this ends up.
Maybe. But
well,
as far as I'm concerned, once I have my sire, it's done. So maybe I do see the big picture. But it's a goal for me.
Is it truly your endpoint?
Are you really considering spending eternity like this? Like a monster?
I think we come from very different backgrounds, Barry. You were a good man before you became a monster. I wasn't. My ancestors, my family, made their fortunes from pretty much every shitty thing you've ever heard the British being involved in. well, specifically the English, being involved in over the last few centuries. The Triangle Trade, Irish oppression, selling arms to both sides back in World War II. They were all villains, but here's the thing. They were so fucking boring about it. They went to great lengths to pretend that they weren't villains. It was also hypocritical. I thought I'd make myself into some kind of Robin Hood. Got clear of them. Became a full-on criminal mastermind. Found out the best I could do was just be a supervillain. Honestly, I did a pretty shitty job with that, until I got superpowers.
Good for you.
But you may be right. See, here's the thing. I'm getting away with being a supervillain by being a horrible person to other horrible people. But yeah, you may be onto something, because if I just keep going, I'm just going to be another stupid villain. Another boring villain. Thing is, I'm not ready to go yet. And I'm not sure you are either. Not just yet, anyways. So you really have no interest in seeing Nathaniel Black gone before you go?
Oh no, I want Nathaniel Black gone. But that's really just anyone involved.
Alright. That's still more of a big picture than the others are seeing. Which is why I wanted to talk with you. Because I've got a stepping stone to getting further along in that task, but I may need your help with it. And I need to reassure myself on something. Pierce. Alexander Pierce. She watches very carefully in the rearview mirror.
Just pure repressed fury.
How does that line up with the other times they've had to deal with Pierce while Barry's around? More? Less? About the same?
Much more. The strongest. Strongest you might have seen, honestly.
The pissant excuse for a sheriff. His words hit true, didn't they? Pierce is involved somehow. I'm sorry. Is this a bad time to talk about it?
Pierce will fall. He'll have his due. Regardless of any deals you want to make me. You can be sure of that.
I'm in full agreement with that. The man needs to go. The trick is how and when, and I don't have a how yet. But if you can humor me, I'm going to try to work on a when. And I'm not doing this because I like you, although I do respect you. I'm not doing this because I care about you. Although, I extend you the same compassion that I do with the rest of the coterie, mainly because we all came up together, and it gives me a little comfort to see other people in the same situation, who know where we've been and where we've come from. I'm an inherently selfish creature, and I don't pretend otherwise. I'm doing this because it suits me politically. Wilde relies too much on Pierce. It's made him lazy, made him weak and dependent in a way that's bad for the long-term big picture. I need Wilde in place here if we're to maintain anything like the freedoms we've got today. So the thing is, he's the best leader we've got. Gods know I'm nowhere fit enough to take it. My blood's too thin, and I have no interest in being any sort of leader. I would be horrible at it, and I'd get people killed. And I don't really see any other Anarch around here who's fit to pick up the spot. Do you?
Let me save your breath. Pierce dies, whether you help or not. Whether it's advantageous for you or not.
Right. I'm on board with that.
So cut the political bullshit. You don't need it. Save your scheming for something else.
Alright. I was telling you trying to tell you the whys of why I'm going to be working to help you with this, but
doesn't matter.
You don't want to hear. Alright. Long story short, we need to find a way to get rid of him without Pierce coming down on without Wild coming down on us. Because if that happens, either we kill Wild or Wild kills us. There's no in between. And you might not care how things go in the end of things, but the rest of us have some thinking to do before we check out. If we go. Give me time to dig up dirt on Pierce to try and split him away from Wild, make a crack there. Doesn't even have to be real dirt. If we can fake evidence that, like, he was working with the Camarilla, which might actually be true. I find the timing of when you were taking and when your tragedy occurred very suspicious. You have some hard questions for Bluey, I'd imagine. At any rate, lacks the big picture. Since you aren't interested in politics or details, I'll make it simple. He has money. I'm going to steal it. This will humiliate him to his peers, the Ventrue community at large, and force him into focusing matters on me and taking it back. I was investigating the church before we found out what we did over the last couple of nights. I've got pretty much a sledgehammer lined up to crack his accounts. But I need a spike to really drive it home. Somewhere in this church, there will be the financial records I need. Stored via computer or paper, or maybe in somebody knows a few passwords. Something, because he's been pumping money into this church left, right, and center. And if I get a key, I can use it to unlock the information I need to do to make a financial power grab.
And I'll go key hunting.
Splendid. That's what I need. The agonizing thing is at the end of it may not work. But this is the best shot we have at actually inconveniencing the man and getting him to shift attention from continuing his campaign to swatting an annoying little snake. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate it.
Barry will stay silent until they pull up.
Barry's old police cruiser, Barry's mobile haven, making its way alone down a road through the water-slick streets of Langdon. Sodium yellow lamps dimly illuminate the run-down red brick warehouses that once were the beating heart of industry in the city. Council housing estates, pockmarked with graffiti tags from local gangs, their numbers drawn from the poor and disenfranchised, driven to crime by circumstance and vilification. Barry's hunched over the steering wheel, peering several car lengths ahead down the empty street at the van, Mr. O's van that circles the same 2 blocks, following the same route incessantly, without change. Barry, with your unerring pursuit, finding Mr. O has been surprisingly easy, but of course, you have no supernatural power that prevents anyone in that van from simply peering in the rearview mirror and seeing your car trailing them. That, Barry, comes down to good old-fashioned police work, the skills of a detective, and even though you haven't been a detective in quite a long time, you can feel the old instincts kicking in. So let's begin, Barry, with you going ahead and rolling for me a composure plus drive roll to see how well you've been trailing Mr. O tonight.
Will do. 3 successes.
3 successes. 3 successes to his 2 successes. There's barely any cars on the roads of Langdon tonight, Barry. There's a couple of stragglers, people making their way through from the northern suburbs to the south, who have just chosen through sheer circumstance or misfortune to pass through this rundown place, and a couple of people making the journey out into the suburb during the night to stock up on supplies, late night bread and milk or O'Tolly's runs. But aside from that, you've got the road to yourself. So you're dodging and weaving between parked cars, hanging at the corners, using the buildings to obscure you from Mr. O, and you're pretty sure he hasn't noticed you yet, Barry. You've been following him for about half an hour, around the same 2 city blocks twice. And you've determined that although the van itself doesn't seem to have any destination, even though it seems to just drive this same route over and over, at the end of the route, when it reaches the northernmost tip of the van's route through the city, it stops briefly at what you thought was a laundromat, shuttered for the night, but on your second drive past, you realize it's actually some sort of hideout. There are no lights on and the windows are barred and drawn, but the van stops at the end of its route for no longer than 2 minutes, 120 seconds, and in that time, the driver climbs out, makes his way to the door of the old laundromat, knocks on it, and you watch as it opens just a crack. You see a face obscured in shadow peeking out onto the street, leaning in, whispering something to the driver, and then there's a nod. He climbs back into the van, and the drive continues, and this happens several times. You also notice, Barry, that at multiple points through the van's route, it drives past little side streets, overpasses, alleyways that lead to nowhere, ample places where someone could hide if they want to. Somewhere out in the darkness, Barry. Wisteria's rented SUV waits with Gil behind the wheel and Robert and Avelina waiting for their signal. To hide, to wait, to ambush. And it's up to you to decide how this is going to go down. You peer up at the rear view mirror, Barry, to meet Wisteria's gaze in the back seat, but she's already called upon her cloak of shadows, faded away. The back seat empty, nothing but ominous black shadow. Suddenly, Barry, you hear a voice in your ear. Another late one tonight, babe. You turn, and there in the passenger seat, as always, is Fern. There's a look of excitement on his face, his eyes twinkling. Not often I get to be along for the ride, eh?
Sorry about this, hon. I'm going to concentrate on this one, so I might have to ask you to be a bit more quiet than usual.
Yeah, quiet. Quiet, because you're doing police work, catching crims and nasties, and it's also exciting, isn't it?
Fern, please.
He flashes you a smile, and he shrugs, and he says, all right. He holds a finger to his lips. But you can bet, as soon as we get home tonight, Lyra's hearing everything. Oh, she's going to be so excited.
Yes,
he catches you. He catches your gaze, smiles cheekily once again, and then stares straight ahead through the windscreen at the van that even now is indicating, beginning to turn right at the corner just up ahead. Barry, based on what you know, based on what you've seen, how would you like to go about this?
So I know that there's going to be, you said, like, side alleys and places where there could be, like, they don't go into on their route.
There's at least 3 promising places you think that they're going to pass by. The first is at the very start of the route, after the driver checks in or whatever he's doing and it starts again. Approximately 3 minutes after the check-in, the van will pass underneath an old overpass, a freeway that's no longer in use, that's currently undergoing urban renewal, and there are these big, cavernous areas cast in shadow between the pillars along the side of the road. The second place you've noticed is a couple of minutes past that overpass, as the van winds its way through a small residential street. There are several small cul-de-sacs branching off the main road, and at this time of night, all of the houses are dark and quiet. There's a little park attached to the end of one of them where someone could wait relatively unseen. The third one, the most promising of all, you think, but simultaneously the most risky, is a wide open cobblestone alleyway. It's buried right between 2 tall red brick buildings and would conceal anything hiding in the mouth of that alleyway almost perfectly. However, the alleyway is attached to a wide main road that, even at this hour, still has a little bit of traffic on it, and worst of all, it's only about 60 seconds from the end of the route, from that old laundromat that's some sort of hideout, probably within hearing distance of anyone who's there.
Okay. I want to try and find a spot that's sort of in the middle of their route, like in the middle of those 2 blocks, that I can park my car and I can give a call to everyone.
Sure. You haven't been noticed yet. You don't need to hide, and there are several cars parked along the side of the road, so you pull into a gap between a station wagon and a sedan. And then you flip out your phone. You dial the number of Gil's phone. And Gil, you, hunched over the steering wheel of the rented SUV, a couple blocks away, idly cruising the city streets, waiting for that call. As soon as the phone lights up and the sound of it vibrating fills the cabin, you reach out and grab it and press the button. Beep.
Gil's crematorium. You kill him, we grill him.
Gil, it's me.
Hey, buddy.
Everyone there?
What you got for me?
I'm here.
Alright. I've tracked their route. They're going along two blocks. Unbroken. Except when they stop off at a laundromat, which is a hiding spot. The driver gets out and is... I'll double check with you, DG. That's the only person that Barry knows is with them.
Just seemed to be the driver and Mr. O himself, and your unerring pursuit confirms that he's in the van. You close your eyes and you see him crouching in the back.
Great. The driver's the only person in the van with Mr. O. So if we're able to... So if the driver hops out, if we're able to take control of the van and disable the driver in one fell swoop, I reckon we can do this.
All right.
Here's what I'm suggesting. Either Wisteria or Robert, using your sneaky stuff, to put it bluntly. Get in the van before the driver comes back. Apprehend it, take control of it, and get it out of Dodge. You'll need someone else with you to make sure you can keep Mr. O in check. But if it's just the two of you and Mr. O, it shouldn't be too bad. And then the rest of us, we can try and apprehend that driver when he comes back out, or we can try and storm the laundromat. That's what I'm suggesting.
Maybe I could help with that, says Avelina, reclining next to Robert in the back seat of the SUV. And they're a very odd pair to see together, Gil. You've got Avelina dressed up in her gothic Victorian attire, sitting right next to Robert, who even now has a stream of ants pouring from his right eye socket down his face and into the folds of his tattered uniform. She reaches her hand up to the bat perched on her shoulder, offers it her thumb, and it affectionately nibbles, and she says, if we need a distraction, or better yet, if we would like to keep the driver busy and out of the way, I think Lunala could offer her services.
Great. If no one has any objections, let's go with that.
None at all. You know, once we get inside the van, all I nearly need is eye contact with O. And somebody else can drive. Just drive normally, and the camera really shouldn't know the difference.
Great.
We can have a talk with O. We can choose the opportune time to rendezvous with you back.
So that leaves Gil. We've got Robert and Wisteria using their obfuscate to sneak into the van, but Gil, will you be assisting Barry in taking down the... Will you be assisting Barry in either taking down the driver, or will you be behind the wheel, getting the SUV into place, blocking the road, using it as a weapon?
How much do we need this driver? Is he just a driver, or is he,
I don't know, and that's what I'd like to find out.
Damn, okay.
When you don't know, it's best to err on the side of not splattering. Might be useful later.
All right, so
No, I didn't mean to kill the driver. I guess the way I'd put it would be we take him in for questioning.
we can do that. Okay. Or do you want me to help you take him down so he's out of play?
I reckon that's a pretty good shot.
Sounds good to me, says Avelina. She strokes the bat with her thumb one last time, and then as she pulls her thumb away, you notice that the bat is subtly different, whether its fur is a slightly different sheen, or there's a different glimmer in its eyes, or its wings are warped and gnarled just slightly more than they were before. Something is ever so slightly different. And as if it can sense that you've noticed, the bat looks over, stares at you with its beady black eyes, opens its mouth, revealing several rows of needle-like sharp teeth. Pointed tongue flits through the front of them and tastes the air with anticipation. So, Gil, you're behind the wheel of the SUV. I'd like you to go ahead and make me a drive plus composure roll to see if you can get the SUV in place, waiting by the stop-off point without Mr. O spotting you. Barry's able to tell you about the hiding place, that alleyway, a couple of seconds away from the stop-off place. That would be ideal, but of course the question is whether you can get there safely without drawing attention to yourself. And currently, Gil, you have alcohol pumping through your veins from the last person you fed from, so please remove 1 dice from the pool.
I'll re-roll that then. Hang on. Still 2 successes.
Still 2 successes. 2 successes to... Oh, very lucky tonight. 2 successes to his 1 success. You drive past Barry's car parked on the side of the road. You look over, meet his gaze as he nods from the driver's seat, and then you continue on. You follow 2-3 car lengths behind the van. You wait for it to turn the corner and then make a beeline straight for the mouth of the alleyway, the engine roaring as you turn and scream across the road. And then as soon as you're in the mouth of the alleyway, you kill the engine idle, the headlights turn off, and you are hidden. And then the waiting game begins. The van sets off on another tour around the block, and you know that within 10 minutes or so it'll be back. It doesn't seem like 10 minutes. It seems like only seconds. The anticipation, the excitement, your blood pumping through your veins. If you were alive, your hearts would be beating, thump, 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 and it feels like they are, but you're monsters. That's impossible. No, this is the thrill of the hunt. And so sure enough, when you see the van come around the corner and approach the laundromat, it indicates and starts to slow down. And then it stops fully, and the door of the driver's side door pops open, and out steps the driver, dressed completely in black, thick black trench coat, balaclava, thick combat boots. And it's go time.
Hell yeah.
Soon as the driver is out of the car, as soon as he begins to briskly walk across the road towards the laundromat, Robert and Wisteria are out on the street. Wisteria, you've got Cloak of Shadows. Will you be upgrading to Unseen Passage, or will you be making do with your Cloak of Shadows?
Well, Cloak of Shadows only works when I'm stationary, so it looks like I'll have to upgrade. And get ever so slightly hungrier. Hunger 3.
Happens to the best of us, but when Wisteria steps out of Barry's car, no one sees her. That's the important thing. And Robert, what about you? Sitting there in the back of the rented SUV. You can assume Wisteria's on her way, and it should be just Mr. O in the van, but she could probably do with backup. You have multiple things you can try. You can hide yourself and get yourself there, or you can feel hundreds of thousands of legs squirming eagerly under your skin. Hundreds of tiny voices whispering, use us, use us.
Yeah, for the moment he's just going to go similar thing, unseen passage and sneak in. So.
And do you get any hungrier?
Yeah. I'm back at hunger 1.
Back at hunger 1. Fuck, 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 comes a voice in your head. Fuck it. Gotta fill up, gotta get out and get another pack of smokers, you fucking dog. Fuck. And then 1,000 voices, hungry voices of your hive, drown it out in a buzz, and you creep toward the van. You reach it just as Wisteria does. See the footfalls she makes on the road, kicking up dust. And the two of you reach out together, grabbing the handle of the door, and with a soft click, pulling it open. The two of you scramble into the cockpit of the van. There's no one else in there, only the driver, and there's a thick iron barrier separating the front of the van from the back, with only a tiny window to allow any point of contact between Mr. O and the driver. The engine is idling, the headlights off but ready to turn on, the key still in the ignition. And there's no one else waiting for you. What do the two of you do?
Well, when I see a locked door, I see a challenge. So we're going to try to... Actually, whisper to Robert first. Go ahead and start working the ants and get a view of what's inside. I'll start working on the lock as quietly as I can.
Oh no, the lock, there's no lock. You've pulled open the door and the inside of the car seems to be empty.
Oh.
Except, you can't see the back without opening the back. But the front of the van appears to be empty.
Right.
That said...
Ants heading into the compartment is the idea. It can't be airtight, he has to breathe.
Did you notice there's a big glove compartment under the dashboard, and when you reach out to open it, it is indeed locked, but you don't see any keyhole or any means of unlocking it. You do see several little hairline gaps that would be perfect for a stream of ants to head through, though, however. So, Robert, go ahead and... Will you be using Feral Whispers, or will you be taking direct control?
No, it's just Feral Whispers at the moment.
Well, he's doing that. I believe I'll be using Larceny to case the van.
Yeah, go ahead. Make me an Intelligence plus Larceny check, and of course, you may go ahead and roll for your Feral Whispers, Robert, and of course it's free because the hive is your familiar.
3 successes. On the Larceny.
Charisma.
Let's see.
There's a 4 on the Feral Whispers.
4 on the Feral Whispers. As soon as Robert sinks into the passenger seat, his body, his skin seems to break apart as hundreds, thousands of ants pour forth in a torrent, inserting themselves into the gaps and cracks of the upholstery, the dashboard, and the console, trying to see what awaits within. And meanwhile, Wisteria, you're there in the driver's seat. You're peering around the front of the van. You haven't yet looked in the back. You haven't yet chance to glance through that little window that peers into where Mr. O is. Because there's a lot of interesting stuff here in the front, Wisteria. From the outside, this looks like a fairly regular work van, a Toyota Hiace, but it's clear when you're inside that it's undergone an extensive amount of work. The dashboard and the console seem seem a bit more, shall I say, secure than usual. There's a distinct lack of buttons and knobs. There's no radio. Doesn't appear to be any air conditioning. Instead, the whole console has been replaced with apparently a series of secret compartments, the likes of which the ants are currently going through for anything of interest. But what's more apparent, what stands out to you immediately, Wisteria, is the fact that were the driver not doing a quick stopover, were you to ambush this van while it was driving, and were it locked, you would have had quite some time getting in, because the lock is not the normal lock you'd expect to find on a van like this. It is sophisticated, complicated. Reminds you quite a lot, actually, Wisteria, of something you'd see on a police car. The back of a divvy van, or some sort of Securicar. Gives you the thought of two guards driving through the city with a big bag of money in the back.
We'll also pop out and check the underside.
Before we get to that, the driver. The driver makes his way towards the laundromat. He steps up onto the concrete and begins to make his way past the shuttered window towards the door, already raising his right fist, ready to knock as he does. And that's when Barry and Gil decide to go for it. What's the go, guys?
I just want to. I'll give this while we're sort of waiting. I want to give the guy, now that I've got proper line of sight of him, give him a once over and see what his deal's about.
Sure, go ahead and make me, shall we say, a wits plus investigation. Or insight. You may choose either.
Definitely got investigation here. Geez, only 2 successes.
2 successes. Would you like to spend a willpower, or will you be content with 2?
Yeah, I'll spend a willpower. Why not?
Go ahead and re-roll.
Up to 3 non-hunger, right?
Up to 3 non-hunger, yes.
Cool. Oh, that's a little better, I guess. 3 successes overall.
3 successes. I'll add an extra success, because you do have heightened senses, and I'd say you've probably got that active at the moment. So 4 successes altogether. You watch him from inside of your car, peering at him through the windshield, and you're vaguely aware of Fern mimicking your movements, leaning in just as you do, squinting, narrowing his eyes, and when you catch his eyes, he winks, smiles back at you, and then, with a silent laugh, leans back into his seat. You study the man. He moves with purpose. Obviously, what he's wearing is not the usual attire you'd expect to see on a law-abiding citizen. He's wearing a balaclava, a thick black coat. You can see combat boots underneath. You can see the shape of... You can see over his shoulder, underneath the coat, the unmistakable shape of a large firearm, a rifle of some description. And as he gets to the doorway of the laundromat, looks left to right, looks over his shoulder to make sure the coast is clear, he does it in a way that you recognize as being informed from professional experience. This man is a professional. He's trained, a soldier or a hired gun or a professional career criminal. It's hard to say for sure, but It's a guy that knows what he's doing and will not hesitate to commit violence if he has to.
I'll just go over to Gil before we go. Gil, this guy's a professional. He means business. Whatever you do, do it quick. Disable the gun. That's our priority.
Yep. Disable the gun.
All right.
Just get the door open and fucking let's go.
So Barry, you're going to be taking him as well. You and Gil, one from each side. Is that how we're doing this?
I reckon.
All right. You meet Gil's eyes, and then you both nod, smiling with the relish of what you're about to do, and then you make your move, moving like a blur through the darkness. The man's fist is a centimeter from the door when he hears movement behind him, whirls around, his hand already plunged into the folds of his coat, reaching for his weapon.
Barry's got the gun out already, and he's just going to say, drop it.
Drop it. Two monsters already bearing down upon him. Barry, your gun's out, drawn, pointed at him. Go ahead and make me a charisma plus intimidation, and Gil, you're charging straight in, ready to disarm him. So go ahead and make me a strength or dex plus brawl check.
-1 for the booze.
-1 for the booze, unfortunately.
Well, I might be
Actually, no. This is a physical dice pool. So actually, no. You don't have to take one away.
Okay, that's a bit better.
There's one thing alcohol's doesn't impede in it. It's fighting things. So
I had to spend a willpower, but I got 4 successes.
4 successes. And how'd we go, Gil?
Sorry, 1 second. I'm just looking something up.
All good, all good. You can feel free to use any of your disciplines.
Yeah, I was just going to activate prowess to get Wrecker.
Very nice. Not just disarming him, but reducing the gun to scrap metal. Very, very nice. So, yeah, go ahead, do a rouse check to activate your Wrecker, and then make your roll.
Looking good. We succeed on that one, so no more hunger.
And how many successes are we looking at?
We're looking at 5 successes to disable the gun.
5 successes.
Hell yeah.
5 successes to his 5 successes, however. Drop the gun, barks Barry. And this guy isn't going to do it. You know before the words are out of your mouth, Barry. This is the type of guy who is not going to drop the weapon, but it's enough to distract him, enough to give him a moment of hesitation. And I'm going to drop 1 success off his successes, bringing him down to 4. As you distract him just long enough for Gil to come charging up from the side with a great yell, his fist comes down and smacks into the side of the man's body. With a gasp of pain, the gun clatters to the ground, and as soon as it hits the concrete, Gil roars again and slams his foot down like he's crushing a piece of rubbish underfoot, and you watch as the barrel of the gun breaks apart, the stock shatters into splinters, springs and cogwheels litter the concrete. The man winces, defenseless, and then he begins to back away, back towards the door, pounding on it with his fist. Bang, 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 and you hear the sound of something rustling, shuffling from the other side of the door. a click of a gun being cocked. Gil, Barry, what would you like
Gil,
to do?
grab him and run. We're going to run back to my car.
So the two of you are going to grab him, run back to the car?
That sounds like a plan.
You don't get shot. All right. No roll needed for grabbing him. He's still staring down at the gun at his feet, broken, and the eye sockets of his balaclava, you can see his eyes are wide with shock. He's going to compose himself, but not quick enough before Gil and Barry rush in, grab him by the side, and begin to drag him away. But Barry, Gil, I'd like you to both make dexterity athletics rolls, please, as you hear the sound of the door of the laundromat opening, another click of a gun being cocked.
Okay, 2 successes.
2 successes. And Gil?
Two successes as well. Sorry, my computer's being a bit slow today.
It's all good, it's all good. 2 successes. Let me see what we're rolling against.
Is it worthwhile pointing out I've got rapid reflexes?
You do have rapid reflexes. So you have rapid reflexes, so you're counted as being in cover. So I will subtract a success from whatever he rolls to hit you. Bang! You hear a gunshot ring out as 7 successes drops to 6. Barry, how many successes did you get? Was it greater or lesser than Gil's 2?
No, it was the same, I think. Yeah, 2.
2. You feel searing pain as buckshot eats into your backs, and the guy you're holding pulls away, nearly freeing himself, but then the two of you, still under heavy fire, grab him and pull him into the mouth of the alleyway as he struggles and fights. And it's only because you're vampires, and only because there's 2 of you, that you manage to subdue him, pinning him to the wall, even as blood pours from the bullet wounds, pooling around your feet, and you each take 3 points of superficial damage.
Ouchie.
You hear the door flung open the rest of the way, hear the footsteps of whoever's inside running after you down the road, and then you see it. You see something you did not expect to see in a million years. I'm rolling for Avelina for one of her disciplines. Avelina steps to the mouth of the alleyway, holds her hand aloft, and her bat spreads its wings, taking to the night like a shadow. It moves far faster than you'd expect something of its size to move. Within a second, it's on the man, hovering above his head. It opens its mouth, baring its needle-like teeth, and then swoops towards him out of the sky. He raises his gun, pointing it up, ready to defend himself, and then the bat opens its mouth wide, and the nastiest, most soul-crushing, high-pitched scream echoes through the surrounds, bouncing off the buildings and the windows. You hear the man scream as he clutches his hands to both of his ears, his gun clattering away, and he drops to his knees on the floor, writhing in obvious pain. Avelina smiles as she steps out of the alleyway, holding her hand aloft, and calls back her familiar. "All yours, boys," she says, with a wink.
For very rare times, Barry lets out a little smile, and with the buckshot the pain rises back up in his back, and he sort of clenches at it, and then he just walks on over to the door to see what's up with this hideout.
You step past the man, still writhing, screaming on the floor, and you notice what gun he shot you with. The buckshot still burning in your back. It's a military-issue combat shotgun. Almost unheard of in a town like Buckley. Definitely not something you'd expect a standard criminal to be lugging around. You step past him as Avelina smiles, kneeling down over him, baring her fangs, and you peer through the open door into what seems to be a normal, mostly empty laundromat, save for at the very back, a doorway leading into the manager's office, and you can see a pale green light emanating from within, as if cast by a screen, a TV, a computer monitor, something electronic.
Barry immediately will grab that shotgun. And he's just going to call in to everyone else before he approaches.
To the car. Oh, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Back to the car. Robert. What's it like when you communicate with your ants? We've described it before as you seeing through their eyes, but your animalism has changed recently. Whenever you send the ants out now, there's a piece of you in them. And what do you think this feels like?
Probably something akin to like attempting to watch multiple monitors simultaneously, like
hundreds, thousands of different feeds of information. It reminds you of when you were mortal, when you were a security guard, when you'd be spending your shift staring at banks of computer monitors, although there was only like 8 of them back then, not the hundreds, thousands there are now, and it's somehow harder than it used to be. Your control over the ants is somehow more natural. They're more a part of you, a natural extension of you than they've ever been, and yet somehow everything they're seeing, everything they're experiencing is all the more real than it used to be. And so, Robert, I'd like you to go ahead and make me a composure plus animalism roll for this very first time, to try and make sense of it all, to try and get a handle on this new, intense connection.
a lower will. So I'm just going to stick with the 2 for now.
2?
Yeah.
Better than nothing. What are the ants seeing? The ants are seeing something out of an eldritch horror nightmare. Long, twisting trenches, lines that crisscross in maddening, unfathomable angles, towering black edifices that seem like dark spires cutting through the shadow. Takes you a few seconds to realize what your ants are showing you, Robert, but when you do recognize it, you know immediately what it is. It's a circuit board. The console of the van conceals a gigantic circuit board, and you can even recognize some of the components connected to it. Something that seems to be connected to an outside signal, constantly uploading, even now, several covert listening devices, radios, biometric scanners. Whoever's sitting in the cockpit of the van is having their every movement, every word heard, seen, known, recorded. Meanwhile, Wisteria, as you hear Robert gasp with the realization of what his ants are showing him, you meet it with a gasp of your own. Peering underneath the vehicle, you see something that definitely should not be there, Wisteria. A big black brick, about the size of a clenched fist, stuck to the underside of the car with a red blinking LED light glaring back at you.
Do I recognize what that is?
Go ahead, make me an intelligence technology check if you like.
Not my best score, and I am rather hungry. 2 successes.
2 successes. Your best guess is it's some kind of tracking device. It seems like something you'd see in a spy movie.
Alright. She'll shimmy back up into the front seat and whisper to Robert, "There's a tracking device under the car. Easy enough to disable it. Have you found anything?"
Yes, the car is wired so it's monitoring the driver.
Then he can easily see that you've been moving around in here, yes? So the jig's almost up.
You're not sure what it would be seeing exactly. It'd be registering movement, but the movement of all those ants on the circuit board, you're not exactly sure what that would ping as. Though it is safe to say, Robert, with your knowledge of technology, that whoever's listening in is probably aware that somebody is in the cockpit.
Is it about time for the driver to head out?
Peering out the window, you see Barry stepping into the laundromat. You realize the driver and his buddy inside have been taken care of, which means you've got about 20 seconds before whoever's listening in realizes that their driver's been taken out. And the movement in the cockpit is, in fact, the movements of an intruder.
Alright. Robert, start the car and start driving. I'll go to the underside and deal with the tracker. When I knock 3 times, go ahead and turn off the route and head south.
Alright.
We're going to disable the tracker mid-run.
Gonna be quite difficult.
Oh, I do love a challenge.
As Robert leans over, turns the key in the ignition, and the engine roars to life, you chance a glance through that little window into the back of the van, and you see what could only be Mr. O. There's no lights in the back of the van, so he's huddled, completely obscured in darkness, but he makes no movement or any sign that he's aware that anything is wrong.
Alright. I'll go shimmy into position onto the undercarriage and text Barry quickly, starting the van following the normal route. At some point we'll deviate. Follow and make sure nobody follows us. Going to try to lose the tracker.
Barry, your phone vibrates as the message comes through, and as you reach for it, you hear the sound of the van roaring to life outside. Do you give Wisteria your blessing, or do you have any other ideas?
No, Barry just sends through affirmative. He also just texts something in the back of this laundromat, heading to investigate.
You hear the sound of wheels crunching on asphalt, and the van takes off. Go ahead,
Wisteria. Brace herself and reply, like typing one-handed as best she can. Okay, give you 10 minutes.
So, there are two things we could do here as Wisteria pops open the passenger side door, slides out, and hangs on for dear life, leaning over, reaching under the underside of the car, reaching for the GPS. Robert, how many dots in drive do you have?
Just as I thought, I have 0.
0. Thump! The van hits a pothole, and Wisteria, your forehead nearly slams into the road. You realize, with Robert behind the wheel, this is going to be very dangerous, and you don't want to take any longer than you have to. So Wisteria... Go ahead.
In that case, we're going to give Barry the 10 minutes. Then at a stoplight, I'm going to shimmy under there. And we'll see use weight of the feather to cling to the underside. Without fear of being dislodged. Will I work on it?
This is the first time you've used weight of the feather. So I would ask you, particularly in a stressful situation like this, to go ahead and make a rouse check for me.
Wow. It's been 30 years since I got it, but alright. And I do not get hungrier.
Just as well. Because the beast is desperately trying to stop you from doing this. Stay here, don't! You're going to get crushed, we're going to die! But you force it into the back of your mind, and as Robert slows to a stop at...
You weren't around for the Morocco job. I've done something like this before and I can heal now. Shut the fuck up.
And yet, through your mind, unbidden, flashes the image of your pretty face being crushed under the wheel of the van. Your beast shudders as it relents, and you get to work. Go ahead and make me a dexterity or composure plus larceny roll, and you may add an extra dice. Actually, you don't lose any dice to your pool. You've stabilized it with the weight of a feather, so just go ahead and roll normally, please.
Going to go big or go home and try to boost dexterity and not get hungrier, thank goodness. And attempt dexterity larceny, you said?
Or composure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to spend a willpower to roll out of that bestial success.
Probably very wise.
And that will be 6 successes.
6 successes? More than enough.
Nice.
In spite of it all, you feel yourself sighing in relief, involuntarily, Wisteria.
Told you.
As
Morocco.
And yet it could have gone so much worse. Either way, the device, whatever it is detached from the bottom of the van and now sits in the palm of your hand. You pull yourself back, thankfully, safely into the cockpit, into the embrace of the passenger seat, pulling the door shut behind you and proffering the device. And Robert, with the dots you have in technology, you recognize it for what it is immediately. It is a GPS tracker. A very expensive and precise GPS tracker. It's not something that you can buy on the street, Robert. You're sure of that. It's something that only the biggest security firms or government organizations would have ready access to.
Really? Well, I was going to toss it. We'll just disable it then. When Barry's 10 minutes are up.
And so we shift back to Barry. Are you checking out that strange electronic light in the back room?
Yeah. I'll just tell... I'll make sure that Gil and sort of whisper over. to the rest here with me, and I'll level my gun and proceed very cautiously.
And Gil, are you happy to let Barry step in there alone?
Sadly, yes, because Gil's going to be taking a moment to heal up, because with the burns that he's still got from his shoulder, he's not looking too healthy at the moment.
Go ahead, make a rouse check to heal, and besides, you're keeping an eye on the driver. He doesn't look like he's going anywhere. He's sprawled unconscious at your feet at this point, but just in case. And so, Barry, you make your way through the empty laundromat. Each of the washing machines covered in a thick layer of dust that suggests this place hasn't actually been used in years. And then you step into the back room, bathing yourself in that pale electronic glow. And it's far less impressive than what you were expecting. A single laptop laid out on an otherwise bare desk. A single Wi-Fi router connected to it with a USB cable. LED lights blinking and humming as even now it uploads a constant stream of information to something, somebody, somewhere.
Oh shit. There's no cameras, are there?
Go ahead and make me a wits awareness roll, and you may add your auspex because you have your heightened senses up.
Uh-huh. Wits awareness, you said?
Wits awareness. Or wits investigate. Either will do.
I'll do investigate.
You detective, you.
That's 8 successes.
8 successes. Thankfully, there's no cameras in this room. But what you see in this room does little to dispel the tension building up inside you, Barry. On the laptop screen is a street map of the city of Buckley, and there's a little red light blip, 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 making its way down the road, down the route that you mapped out for Mr. O's van. And most concerning of all is a stack of papers. Stack of papers in the corner of the room, wedged into a cardboard box, shoved into the shadows, out of sight, out of mind. And when you see this cardboard box and drag it out into the light and begin rifling through the papers, you feel your mouth drop open. Each and every one of them appears to be about Wisteria. A comprehensive timeline of her movements, starting from the years before her embrace, and covering the 30 years hence, her visits to London, the names of people, presumably vampires, though some of them probably mortal as well, that she associated with, photos of them, grainy black and white mugshots of various smiling, scowling faces. And it's current, right up until now, with the latest entry in the timeline simply reading, "We'll make a move on her sire soon."
Do I know... before I text this all to Wisteria, I want to see who this information is being broadcasted to. If there's any way I can get that from this or from the tracker.
You can. There's a couple ways you could do it. You could try to go through the router itself, but that's probably a bit technical for you. Or you could try to rifle around on the laptop, see what hints you could glean.
Yeah, I'll bring in I'll bring in Gil and Evelina in case they have any. They'll probably definitely have more computer technology than I do.
As Avelina steps into the room, a long trickle of blood leading from her bottom lip down her chin. She licks it off and then looks with disdain at the laptop and the router, and she says, "Ugh, so gauche, but maybe we can get something from it." And so I would like you, Barry, to go ahead and make me an intelligence plus technology roll. And Avelina will make one as well.
3 successes.
3 successes. Avelina has the living in the past flaw, which means she has no technology whatsoever. But she's very, very insightful, and she's got a knack for spotting small things, and so I'll add an extra success based on what she's rolled to your pool. And that's enough to give you something, Barry. With Avelina's help, you manage to get out of this street directory, this tracking program, whatever it is, and into the laptop proper. You find that the laptop is almost entirely empty. It's like someone bought a laptop brand new from the shop, scrubbed it of everything it came with, leaving nothing but the bare essentials, the operating system, and nothing else, save for the tracking programs. There isn't really any identifying information in the laptop itself, but when you finally manage to access the program that controls the uploading of information to wherever it's going, you instantly recognize the address. You instantly recognize the IP through which it's all being routed. And it's an IP address that is associated with the police. Racking your brains, you remember it was in its infancy when you were with them. Cybercrime hadn't yet become a thing, but there was talk of establishing some sort of server, some sort of joint project with the government. And that's what this is currently uploading to.
Barry's just in. Cogs are really turning for him, and then he whips out his phone and he texts to Wisteria. All done here. We need to talk we need to talk or before your next route.
Show text back. Get ready to start tailing us on Bleecker Street. We'll turn to the south there. Turn off the GPS at that point.
And so?
And we'll rendezvous at a good spot. We would have discussed a place to fall back to.
Yeah.
We'll rendezvous there.
And so, Barry, before you leave, do you do anything with the technology here?
Yeah, I want to take the box full of Wisteria's information. Is it just that box?
Just a box. It's a lot of information, though. A whole box for one vampire, but it's... You can take it with you. No problem with that. Avelina frowns. What about this thing? Should we turn it off? Can we turn it off?
I don't really know. Probably best to leave it. Just clean up after yourself.
Evelina nods and smiles. And as you turn your back from her, Barry, you hear that telltale sound, the sound of snapping bones and twisting flesh. And just as you step out of the room, you see, cast in shadow on the wall, her talon raising up in the air and coming down to smash the laptop to bits. Meet up with Gil back in the mouth of the alleyway. The driver that you incapacitated lies unconscious at Gil's feet, moaning feebly. The other gunman, the one that was sent to his knees by the bat's cry, lies broken, disjointed in a dumpster in the mouth of the alleyway. At first you think he's dead. His pale skin tells you Avelina's taken most of, if not all of his blood. But you see his eyelids flicker as you move past. He's alive, barely. I could, make sure he's not going to come back as a loose end, Evelina says suggestively.
Probably best to bring him in too. Just keep him stable.
She nods, and then using her talon, catches him by the neck of his coat, lifts him up out of the dumpster, and slings him over her shoulder. You pile back in. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah. We'll pile back in and we'll follow those instructions.
Barry piles into his car, and as you slide into the driver's seat, Barry, Fern is already there, and he smiles and he says, "Oh, lots of action. Did you get him? Get him, babe?"
Not yet, hon. Not yet.
Well, get him eventually. And it'll be such an exciting story, too.
Yeah, we'll say that.
Gil and Wisteria pile the two gunmen into the back of the rented SUV, and then two car engines roar to life and drive off into the darkness. Wisteria, Robert, the van rumbles down the road, jostling over potholes and bumps. Robert's not a good driver, but he's able to mimic the route fairly well, you think. Mr. Rowe certainly doesn't yet seem to know anything is wrong at all.
All right. Next light, I'm going to get out and head into the back. And that's when you push this button and turn this off and start deviating from the route down the street, Bleecker Street. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. And I will try to thievery my way into the back at the opportune moment.
The opportune moment comes relatively soon. There's a bright red light at an intersection, and Robert slows and stops in front of it. It's only red for a few seconds before it switches to green, but that's more than enough for you, Wisteria, to scramble out of the front seat, run along the side of the van, and... Are you going to just pull open the back doors and scramble in?
That's the plan.
The
If
back
they're not
doors...
open, I'll make them open.
The back doors, surprisingly, are not locked. Or if they're locked from the other side. You feel some resistance at first as you go to pull, but then you hear a click, and then the door gives, and it bursts out towards you, nearly spilling you off your feet. On the other side, you see Mr. O. Still just a crouching shadow at the back. But he looks up, and he sees you, and you see his eyes widen
And
with
that's
recognition.
all I need, as mine go gold. And I hop in and close the doors, smiling at him.
Go ahead and roll your Eyes of the Serpent.
Of course, we'll kick in awe here.
I will roll for him to resist your eyes of the serpent.
Well, he's up against 4 successes.
4 successes to his 3 successes. He makes a move to do something, but you never get to see what it is, because as soon as his eyes lock with yours, he's frozen, rooted to the spot. You've seen all sorts of reactions from people when you've done this, Wisteria. You've seen them struggle to break free. You've seen them open their mouths in shock and terror. You've seen them merely confused, wondering why their body does not respond to the signals they're giving it. What you've not seen is Mr. O's reaction, however. He smiles broadly, revealing perfectly clean, perfectly straight teeth. But there's something about the way he smiles, the very corners of his mouth, the way they twist. There's something sinister about it. And his eyes, even though the back of the van is cast in near complete darkness, his eyes glimmer like a cat's, like a predator back at you. The engine... Go ahead, Wisteria.
We're going to take a ride now. Don't fuss. There's high odds you'll live through this. And she pulls out a small... After the doors are shut, she pulls out a small flashlight and turns it on so that there's enough light.
Click! And now you get your first full glimpse of him. Mr. O. If you didn't know any better, you'd say he's a vampire, a child of Set. Just like you, he looks the part. Form-fitting white suit, big golden ankh necklace, hair perfectly groomed, a handsome face, but a rough face, and the way he looks at you makes it clear that the presence he got from his master is not the same type of presence you got. The engine roars and the van continues on, turning left onto Bleecker Street. Robert, I'd like you to go ahead and make me a composure or wits plus drive check, please. I know you don't have any drive, so just wits or intelligence.
Let's go wits. I'm just going to roll to boost that.
Go ahead.
That's another fail, so I get hungrier.
How many successes are we looking at?
Just another 2 successes.
Another 2 successes. 2 successes, and I won't tell you what the other party rolled, or who they are even. You lean over the wheel, doing your best to drive the car steadily straight forward, trying not to draw attention to yourself, trying to make it seem as if the driver of the van simply decided to take another route. The beast grumbles in the back of your mind, rattles its bars in hunger. 1,000 voices scream, "Feed me!" And then another voice, louder than all the others, says, "Come on, bastard! Late night O'Tolly's run, fuck yeah!" Wisteria. Mr. O still looks up at you, silent, unmoving, smiling. Says nothing.
I expect you know who I am.
Of course, he says, the smile still not fading. You get the feeling he would shrug if he could. And I've been waiting for you to come. You made good time, I must say. Thought I was doomed to continue this stupid fucking routine for at least another night. Boring. You have no idea. The same 2 city blocks over and over, only stopping at the end to check in with the other guy, only swapping drivers at the end of every 8-hour shift. It's been hell.
You don't strike me as the suicidal type, and the ants found no explosives, so if this is a trap, it's a fairly poorly thought out one.
Not a trap, he says. Not a trap. I would not try to trap you, for, you see, I wish to work with you. We both want the same thing. And, well, I'm sorry about all the running around, but it was very much my intention that we would meet.
You're telling me that all this was a job interview?
He shrugs. Well, you get the sense he's trying to shrug. His face jerks. And if he could move, he would shrug non-committally. And he says, well, my master can't very well know that I'm a turncoat that I've thrown in with the other side, now can he? Why, if he suspected that I was out to get him, if he truly knew what I was up to, I wouldn't even be here. So I'm sorry, I had to make it look like a bit of I had to make it look like you were coming for me, you know. I knew once I acquired that thing, once I acquired that old piece of artwork of yours, that it would get you sniffing and it would lead you right to me. And my master is none the wiser.
Oh, the devil. Are you getting around the blood bond?
At this, he falters, and he simply says, let's not worry about that. All I'll say is it's no longer a concern.
I'm going to insight him on that one.
Go ahead, wits insight.
4 successes, dice are high.
Just say, this is not the sort of thing you would gloss over. Either he's still utterly enamored to his master, in which case this is a trap and everything he's saying is nothing but a lie, or he has found a way to break free of his master, really does intend to reach out to one of his master's enemies and strike back, but that doesn't answer how. You've heard the old saying, haven't you? He says, an enemy of my enemy is my friend, and, well, I would like nothing more than to see Thaddeus burn. And he says this last word with clear, intense hatred. No insight check required on that one, it's genuine.
That does raise the question. Let me see if I've got the timeline straight here. 30 years or so, give or take, you betrayed Sebastian. Now you're betraying Thaddeus. And I'm supposed to employ you. Why? You seem to have a habit here. Judging by what I know.
Because I respond to rewards when they are well earned, and I resent when they are not given, he says. Sebastian never intended to embrace me. Sure, I always had the hope that he would, but that was a lost cause. And then Thaddeus offered me the embrace, offered me the one thing he knew I dearly wanted. He said he had a new regime up his sleeve, a new way of doing things, a way that the other sons and daughters of Set were prepared to back him up on. But I didn't care for that. I cared that I would be given the reward that had been coming to me for all of these years of faithful service. And then what? 30 years? And the Sedites send some neonates from out of town, and he's got a pre-made coterie, and he doesn't need me anymore. Go do this, Orson. Go do that. Meaningless, busy work. And then I remembered that there was one person that he was afraid of more than any others if I couldn't reach out to the Baron, and of course, I've already burnt my bridge with Sebastian. No going back there. If I could not have the Baron, then I could have the next best thing. His sire, who he believes to be a pawn of the Baron and nothing more. Even now, he builds his resources, amasses his strength, preparing for the inevitable night when the Baron sends you after him. And I thought, well, why not just kickstart the whole thing? And so here I am, and here you are.
He fears me? Oh, this will be fun. Oh, you have no idea how much I've been looking forward to this. Is what I'd say if I gave a damn about him. He's an idiot. He's nothing more than a stepping stone. He's a fool who got lucky on my worst day and his best day. So for you offering his vengeance against him, I'm not seeing that as a particularly compelling reason to take you into my employ. We've got most of what we need to get to him. What else have you got?
He stares back at you, still unable to move. And not breaking his smile, he simply says, "Shall we dispense with the power games here? I promise I'll make no movement against you."
I suppose we can.
As soon as he can move again, his hand plunges into the folds of his shirt. You see him desperately fumbling, reaching for something. Do you let him?
Absolutely.
Takes about a minute until he finds what he's looking for, and then he extracts it from his coat and holds it up. It's not a stake, it's not a gun, it's not a weapon, it's a small white envelope, sealed. There's no name on it, no address, no postage stamp. He holds it out.
She'll take it with 2 fingers. Pop out one of her 2 switchblades and slit it open.
At this point, Barry, Gil, your cars have turned onto Bleecker Street, and you can see the van ahead, several car lengths ahead. And you notice that whoever's at the wheel, whether it's Wisteria or Robert, isn't particularly great at not drawing attention to themselves. The van seems to zigzag from left to right. It's almost as if the driver's going out of his way to hit every pothole and gash that he can. Gil and Barry, I'd like each of you to both go ahead and make either composure or intelligence plus drive checks of your own as you turn onto the street and begin trailing the van anew.
2 successes.
-1 for the drunkenness.
Say yeah, drunk driving is bad, kids.
It's 1 success.
1 success. Would you like to willpower that?
Sorry, I tell a lie. My computer was being slow. It's 3 successes.
Ah, much better. And how about you, Barry?
Just 2 successes.
2 successes. 2 plus 3 plus the 2 that Robert got before makes 7 altogether. I won't tell you if you've beaten the other party. Not yet. Not yet. But the 2 of you are doing the best you can to put a healthy distance between you and that van, to follow it, but not look like you're following it, not look like you're in league with the people driving it, but still close enough to rush into action, to provide backup if needed. Wisteria? Mr. O smiles at you, still smiling, somehow slightly more sinister than before, and you see a look of unmistakable greed in his eyes as he watches you examine the envelope. As you turn it around in your hands, you feel it is rather thick. There's a lot contained within. But what? As if to answer your question, Mr. Rowe shrugs his shoulders, leans back his head, sighs, and he says, "Sir, you don't care too much about the fact that I want revenge against Thaddeus, I get that, but that church he's holed up in, I bet you want to know what's inside, right?"
I do, in fact. I've got some idea, but I'd like to hear it from your lips. Really, I'm not indisposed to taking revenge on Thaddeus. It's just I don't. It doesn't bring me any real satisfaction. It's not important to me. But if it's important to you, we can deal. Go on, keep talking.
Personal, he says, but I'd be lying if I said it was important. It seems even to the people I'm working with, he is but a stepping stone, though make no mistake, it behooves their plans for him to be gone, and so temporarily at the very least, my desire, your desire, and the desire of those I'm working with all align. And so, as a show of good faith, he points a finger at the envelope, I provide to you a schematic, a blueprint of the Church of the Guiding Light. Weaseled it out of Thaddeus's office myself, I did.
Ah, now we're talking. This will make things easier. And this is good for part of the payment.
Place used to be a guild house of some hermetic order or another, he says. Still have their catacombs underneath, secret passages in and out of the place. Everything you'd expect an old mage's guild house to have, including some of the old enchantments that are still in place that Thaddeus has been working to no avail for quite some time to dispel, and, well, let's just say relations between the mages and Thaddeus's lot aren't doing so well at the moment, especially after something that you pulled last night. No, the mages have found new allies, the same as mine, and so you could say, right now, technically, we're on the same side. And so, I had a mage mark down on those schematics everything you can expect to find within. You'll have to find your own ways of dealing with them, of course, but forewarned is forearmed, is it not?
As forearmed as an Indian goddess. This is a good down payment. I'll need 2 more things from you, but you don't need to provide them yet. And when you do provide them, I will give you what you wish.
He holds up his hands. Let's make no mistake. I'm done with being a ghoul. I served the Baron for 30-odd years. I served Thaddeus for 30 more. I'm done being the lapdog of vampires. If I'm going to work with you, I will be given what I am owed, and if you will not give it to me, then I have found others who will give me many other things besides. Perhaps not the embrace, but things that I will find very much agreeable.
Then let me explain what I want from you, so it's up front. What I want from you is everything you know about Nathaniel Black. And I understand you don't need to tell me this today, but I'll need you to prepare a full document if you don't have it already. The other thing I'll need from you are the full details on your employers. I'm starting to think I know who they are, and this isn't a deal breaker for me, but you'd best not mention it to the others.
He ponders for a moment, and then the smile on his face falters. It finally breaks. And you see him look away, peering into one of the shadowy corners of the van as he speaks his next. Oh, well, you see, that might be a problem, because I've agreed to not reveal who they are or what they're doing here. But you can rest assured, for the moment, we've reached an accord. And we all want Thaddeus taken down. As for Nathaniel Black...
Wisteria will hold up her phone, and on it she taps "they listening," and just shows him the text.
He nods, but says nothing.
I do want Black. If you can prepare me the information, I'll forgive you. Details on the others. It's nothing I can't handle, I'm sure. She taps down. Want more details later.
Well, if you could forgive that, he says, smiling once more, then I think I can offer a bit more. If you're willing to overlook my employers and who they might be, then I will say to you that they know an awful lot about Nathaniel Black, as they do about many other vampires in this city. Oh, they've made it their vested interest, and, well, I could get that information for you. It would be fairly easy. I have some things I know right now I could tell you. I know that Nathaniel Black is the one who came up with the idea of luring Thaddeus over to the other side. The guild hall was empty by that point, the Hermetic Order had been expelled, and... well, Thaddeus was working with some out-of-town Ascedites, and Black thought that this was his chance to finally get that thorn, the Baron, out of his side, and so he offered up the guild house, a church, the money to get it running. And of course Thaddeus took it like a fish taking the bait, as of course he would. The church itself wasn't a new creation. The Ventru had been funneling some money through some parties for a while, and it was them who'd got the guild house refurbished, up and running, but the church was mortal. Some bloke by the name of Paul, real Bible-thumping, thou shalt not do this, God shall strike thee down type, and Thaddeus simply stepped in, revealed himself as an angel of God, and took over. And that suited Black just fine, because they'd been looking for a way to infiltrate the church. And now that they have, they've got Thaddeus right where they want him. He smiles.
Wrapped in the lair that he so desperately tried to make.
He thinks he's safe there, says Mr. Rowe. He set up his haven, thinks all of the old enchantments will protect him, thinks all of the mortals he's got under his thrall will keep him safe. Paul's still a Bible thumper. Paul McDowell is still a Bible thumper, only it's a different God he preaches the words of now. Not that he knows it, but rest assured, Thaddeus thinks he's secure with all of his faithful flock around him. That's why, you see, it was so valuable that you make contact with me. Because now you know what you're dealing with. And the people I'm working for won't stand idly by, he says, shaking his head. When it comes down to it, they'll get involved too. When they know they can get to Thaddeus, when they know someone has him by the balls.
So one way or another, he's not walking out of there.
But you have to be the one to get close to him, you see, says Mr.
Yes.
Rowe.
There's too much, really, to not get personally involved. This isn't really vengeance, it's more like taking out the trash.
Exactly. For both you and my benefactors, and then I get the rewards coming to me.
Yes. Though I can give you eternity at least. Though I will tell you, I'm not exactly top shelf when it comes to vampiric lineages.
He frowns. You've been pretty straight with me, Wisteria. I was expecting you to be a bit more resistant to accepting my help, to working with me, but, well, this has gone about as well as I hoped it would, so in good faith, I will tell you one thing. The people I work for, when I reached out to them, when I told them that I could provide information, resources, things of use to them, there was one thing they wanted from me before they would get involved on their end, and that was, at this he glances over his shoulder towards the cockpit of the van, where Robert, even now, is desperately trying to keep the van on a straight, narrow line down the road. Thump! Goes over a pothole. They wanted proof that you would come out into the open. And I dare say now they have it. He smiles once again, that sinister smile.
Well, can't run everything behind the scenes. It gets boring. There's no substitute for field work when you get down to it. But I believe we've got everything settled, don't we? You've given us something to go on now. I'm going to tuck you away in a place where you'll be relatively safe for the nonce. You're going to spend the night typing up everything you know about Nathaniel Black. And when we return from the church, I'll give you your reward. And after that, that'll put us on an even footing, I believe.
More or less, he says.
I
get what I want, you get what you want. The people I'm working for get what they want, or at least part of it. But they know you've come for me. You know that, right? They asked for proof that you would step out, and
you delivered.
Right.
You betrayed your third master even before you joined her employ. Oh, see, this intrigues me. You're very good at it. I want to see how far you can get. I believe that cleverness should be rewarded, and I think you've earned your shot.
I'm glad to hear it. He says, well, wherever you put me, it'll be a welcome change of pace from the back of this blasted van. Forgive me a moment. He smiles. He reaches once more into the folds of his coat and he pulls out a mobile phone. Not a smartphone, an old, dumb Nokia with black and white graphics on the screen and polyphonic ringtones. I must check in, he says, raising a finger. He won't begrudge me that, of course.
Go nuts.
He smiles as his finger comes down on one of the buttons. The phone beeps and a message that was already composed is sent. Stares down at the screen and then he sighs. And now they'll know to stay their hand, at least until the time is right. That for now, you and I have reached an accord. And with that, Gil, Robert, and Barry, I'd like you each to make wits awareness checks for me.
Plus all specs?
Plus all specs if you've got it activated.
This is still the same scene, yeah?
Still the same scene.
So wits are still boosted.
-1.
-1, yep, for you, unfortunately.
Just to be safe, I'm going to use another willpower.
Good idea.
Okay.
How many are we looking at?
1.
1 from Gil. He's focused on driving and not crashing the car. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
How many for Robert?
It's 4 from Robert.
Ooh, and how many for Barry?
That's 7 for Barry.
7 for Barry. So 12 altogether. You're all very aware of it. That feeling that you're being watched. That feeling that you've felt ever since you first arrived in this suburb. That feeling that has remained persistent the whole time you've tracked Mr. Rowe while you've conducted the ambush. Finally, you realize the source of it. Up in the sky, barely visible in amongst the thick grey night clouds, is a helicopter. Deep black. It's been trailing you for quite some time, watching your every movements down on the road. And now, suddenly, the helicopter pivots, turns to the left, and flies away into the night. Apparently satisfied with what it's seen. Wisteria. Mr. Rowe, still smiling, folds his arms together and then he leans back against the wall of the van. He yawns and he closes his eyes and he says, "Oh, I'll get some shut-eye. Wake me when we're there."
Of course. Oh, drop the phone and leave any other electronics here, will you?
He throws the phone towards you. It clatters on the floor of the van.
We've already taken care of the GPS, so... For my next trick, we'll make you disappear.
He says, non-committally. Just make it fast. I've been on my feet for days now. A proper bed, or even a couch, would be nice.
Oh, I can do you one better. She'll text Jan and get him to set up a penthouse suite at a nice hotel.
The message from Jan comes back instantly. It reads, "Yes, ma'am," and nothing more.
Yeah.
You arrange a drop-off point, and just to be safe, you instruct Robert, and by extension Gil and Barry, to keep driving until you're finally free of the suburb of Langdon. And they're right on the edge of Buckley University, right on the dividing line between Cam and Anarch Domain. The van finally pulls up to the side of the road. Jan stands in the light of a street lamp, her arms folded. Wisteria's long black limousine parked a couple of car lengths behind her. You let Mr. O off, and he silently follows Jan back to the car, and he's gone. And then you're on your own. What do you do next?
Well, she
Gil has been healing up that superficial damage the entire time. And is quite hungry.
As Gil climbs out of the car and walks towards the rest of you, you can see the hunger in his face, his eyes red, bloodshot, his hands fidgeting, and Gil, in the back of your mind, the beast is nervous, fidgeting. They spill our blood, so we spill theirs. They spill our blood, so we spill theirs.
Have we still got that driver with us?
I'd say you do. The driver and his less than cognizant companion are currently in the boot of the rented SUV. Both of them out like a light still.
Do we need them still?
For the rest of you think?
I don't believe that we'd gain anything by questioning them. So no, we don't need them.
Well, hold on. Why is Mr. O driving away?
We've come to an accord. She holds up the envelope. The blueprints to the church. Information on the enemies. And a thorough treatise on Nathaniel Black, prepared under the watchful eye of my heavily armed ghoul.
So what? What was all this?
All this? I was expecting the people watching him to be the Camarilla. It wasn't.
And who would it be then, pray tell? Says Avelina, stroking the bat on her shoulder.
The IP goes to a known police network. And there was this. I'd show her the box of all the information on Mysteria.
She reaches in the back and pulls out the tracker, and this underneath the van as well. She looks at her files and winces. Okay. So they missed Antwerp. That was good. Nobody was supposed to know about Antwerp.
But why to the police? Mysteria, I thought the SI stuff, you told me that it would be no problem.
I don't believe we ever discussed the Second Inquisition.
Not in that much detail, anyway.
I don't believe I ever said it would be no problem. But I understand that you're powerful and your blood might give you hints of things. All right.
Wait a minute, says Avelina, raising her finger. SI, Second Inquisition. Her eyes take in the big cardboard box full of papers, and she sees the Grady photo of Wisteria. She frowns. And they're after you, aren't they?
Oh, yes. Have been for a while.
And then pray tell, she says, extending her arms to include the rest of the coterie in this, why should we step anywhere near that church? If it were up to me, I'd say SI's involved, I am out.
Because you're already in the blast zone. I thought it was the Camarilla that had him. But once we got to talking, we're already riding the tiger.
So he's not working for Camarilla.
He seems to have found a way around the blood bond, and doesn't that make you think?
Power to do that, says Avelina, then we're dealing with some serious shit.
Well, see, my mind goes to that fellow who was throwing fire at us the last night.
Yeah, that cunt.
Once you put magic on the field, all the rules go out the window.
would the SI work with people like that? Says Evelina, puzzled.
I don't know exactly, but the mages are involved in this somehow. I didn't even know there were mages till last night. Now there's mages. There's mages!
And maybe if we'll get their old spot back.
That's probably their end game, says Evelina. You said this church used to belong to them, right? Until us, that is, vampires, kindred, turfed them out. So I guess SI turns up and says, hey, you got a vampire problem, right? We could help you out, but you have to do stuff for us. And so the end game is probably they get their old guild hall back and they get to take out a few of us at the same time.
And now, the Second Inquisition's game is destroying Messiah. They're going to come for me at some point, but I'm only a very little snake in their eyes. I'm ready to let them think that.
Right, they're going to come for you, she says, pointing her finger, jabbing it against your chest. They're not coming for us, so I ask again.
Of course they're not.
I ask again, why should we go after this sire of yours and not just head back into Anarch territory, tell the Baron what's going on, and find some place to hide and wait this all out?
Gil
Let them have the can.
Gil will stand up in between and be like, hey, hang on a second. Wisteria was there when we took down my sire. I'm there when we take down theirs. And Barry's and Robert's. We're in this fucking together. It started 30 fucking years ago. Come on.
She wasn't part of that, but that's alright. Evelina, I'll give you 3 reasons. 1. The Baron wants Thaddeus dead. If you bitch out on this, I'm going to give him a call and tell him that you did that. 2. By participating in this, you've already caught the eye of the Second Inquisition. In fact, given the files and the in-depth operation that I did not expect with Mr. O, I expected they know all about us now, if not to the detail they've got me. So if you'd like to escape, you who own a nightclub in this city, and who operate very openly in a very vampiric fashion, and think you can run on your own, go for it.
Well, here's another question then, she says, shrugging. How do we know that you aren't going to betray us? Sure, maybe 30 years ago you guys were all tight, but I've heard things, the SI, cities like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, there are some of us who would do anything to avoid the fate that's in store, including selling out all the other kindred, even their so-called coteries.
Barry's just gonna score up at Evelina. If you ever doubt coteries' trust.
I see how it is, she says. 3 against 1. She looks over at Robert.
You didn't let me finish point 3.
Go ahead.
Point 3. I was handling bullshit like this back when I was mortal. Organizations with these resources and this reach is not unfamiliar to me. I can deal with this sort of thing. And if you're around me, and I give a shit about you, I will try my best to ensure that you deal with it too. Because it amuses me. Because it lets me show off the fact that I am a fucking supervillain in a world full of ordinary, boring villains. Now, if you think you're better off on your own, without me, who they're definitely going to come for first, go for it. Door's right there. You're an anarch. Do what you want because, well, kindred are free. You are a vampire.
Wisteria, go ahead and make me a charisma plus either leadership or persuade check. And of course, you still have your ore on, do you not?
Absolutely. Yeah, 2 dots in persuasion. Yeah, that looks about right.
See how you go.
No willpower to reroll that, and boom, 4 successes. It's been a 4 success kind of night. Wow.
It has been. A lot of 4 successes tonight. So, Wisteria, it's true. You're a supervillain, and you're playing with some shit that could come down on you hard. Could come down on everyone hard, but what's important is that you seem to know what you're doing. You seem to know what you're talking about. And, you know, the fact that you're a vampire with supernatural charm, that seals the deal. Evelina nods reluctantly. Alright. You make a good case. As much as I'd love to cut and run, I have set up a lot in this city. I have a lot of ties to this city. And if there's a way I can get through this with all of that intact, then if I have to trust you and work with you for the time being, then I suppose we're all in the same boat, aren't we?
Oh, I never said trust me, but definitely work with me. I've got no reason to betray you. And I plan on keeping it that way. I have such plans for these people.
So then,
It's going to be glorious.
says Evelina, we must discuss logistics. Obviously, you're not planning on just rocking up to this church and demanding to see Thaddeus. And she gives a sidelong glance at Gil, and at least one of our number seems to be incredibly hungry.
She checks her very expensive watch. How much night do we have left?
About 11:30 p.m. at this point. Taking Mr. O, that went down surprisingly fast. Go ahead, Gil.
Gil's just like going to point at the SUV. I'll just feed from those guys if it makes any difference. I'm just fucking hungry.
Go for it.
Feel free, darling, says Evelina.
All right.
One of them's pretty much tapped out, but the other one, I swear, I did not lay a fang on him.
Barry, are you reasonably sated?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Robert, how are you doing?
Yes, we are good for that. We are good for now.
All right. Here's the blueprints. If you two want to review it and see what we're dealing with, I'll go get a bite myself and give Desiree a call and get her moving. And then brief the Baron that we'll be moving in.
Don't forget the Baron.
Also, what was going on with the driving?
Hey, you tried driving when your hands are essentially like 500 insects. Constantly squirming, jostling over each other for position.
Yes, it's been a while since we've had to actively get behind the wheel of a vehicle.
Yeah, fucking showed. Righto. Let's have a look at this, shall we?
In the back of Robert's mind, a voice says, "Yeah, nah, fuck that shit. Offered me license, got suspended for the last time back in '83. So, the blueprints. Anyone who'd like to give a look at the blueprints may go ahead and make an intelligence investigate roll.
Intelligence investigate?
Yep. Anyone who'd like to feed may go ahead and do so now, knowing that you probably won't have any other chances between now and when you set off for the church.
All right. Yeah, I definitely need to top up.
You're definitely going to top up. And Gil, you're going to take what you need from the broken, bruised man that you slammed against a wall.
Yep.
Hey, you are an alley cat. And Robert and Barry, you guys are fine?
Yeah, I rolled a bestial failure, so I'm going to willpower that real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, Rob's looking over the blueprints.
Yep, go ahead. You may make an intelligence investigate or academics roll yourself.
Yes.
That's a 4 on investigate.
2 on investigate from Barry.
2 plus 4, that makes 6. We happy for that?
That's the one thing I'm good at. No.
Go ahead. I'll give you some willpower back at the end of this session anyway, so...
I'll do it one more time. One more reroll. I've got shit. I got a crap ton of willpower, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, I've got 2 left, and I'm kind of saving for the church.
All right, another 2 in there, so that's 4 altogether for me.
4. So, Mr. O called them blueprints. They certainly are, but they're not modern blueprints. These are not from whatever construction project the Ventru are feeding money into. These are blueprints from back when the place was built. They're faded, insubstantial in places. It's just a big roll of parchment with what looks like lead and faint pen ink sketching out vaguely defined lines and rooms and ornate archaic handwriting that you can vaguely make sense of. But the takeaway seems to be that the guild house is simply the surface, that the structure, the church itself, is only what's on the surface, the tip of the iceberg. The compound itself, what the mages would have used for their research, and what Thaddeus has now turned into his haven, what the Setites from out of town have now turned into their domain, is a network of tunnels underneath the church that eventually lead into the church itself. There are several passageways leading out of this network of tunnels and corridors, secret entrance and exits for mages to enter their guild house without being seen, but only one of them appears to still be standing, or at least it's the only one that isn't simply crossed out on the blueprint, and that is a single tunnel that leads out into a storm drain canal branching off the Wardang River. According to the blueprints, this tunnel, adjoined to the sewers, proceeds directly under the church and leads up into the inner sanctum of the church itself. However, according to the blueprints, this secret means of entry is also the one that has the most offences assigned to it, making as much sense of the scribbled handwriting as you can. You detect the words ward, garden, and brazen head. Meanwhile, Gil, you step up to the rented SUV, pull open the boot, and you see both of the gunmen lying crumpled inside. One of them, the one Evelina took down, is already breathing his last. If you were to take any blood from him, he'd be unlikely to survive the night. But the other one, aside from the fact that he's sporting some bruises and broken bones, and is even now in deep unconsciousness, moaning in pain, is fresh for the taking. What is your hunger currently at, Gil?
4.
4. He spilled our blood, we spill his. He spilled our blood, we spill his, says the beast, as you lean in. Lift him up, hoist him towards you, and bare your fangs. And as they sink into the flesh underneath his balaclava. The beast roars in triumph and excitement as the warm, sweet blood pours down your throat as every fiber of your body instantly feels reinvigorated. And the beast urges you to take more and more and more, to take what is owed, to spill his blood just as he spilled yours. So, Gil, I'd like you to make me a composure plus resolve plus a third of your humanity check, please, to stave off the hunger frenzy.
So that was composure and resolve?
Plus a third of your humanity, rounded down. How'd you go?
3 successes.
3 successes. Ooh, you can feel it building. And for a split second, you lose yourself in it. There is no van, no man, no coterie, nothing. Just you and the blood, the sweet elixir of life flowing through your body. And then you feel the man's heartbeat grow weaker. You hear him gasp for breath, and that's enough to jerk you out of it. You grit your teeth and pull yourself away, even as your beast roars, as it rattles its cages, as it kicks and screams like a petulant child. You may reduce your hunger to 1. In addition, Gil, he was rocking a resonance.
Ooh.
You feel a sudden surge of anger shoot through your body. You think it's the beast, but no, this is from the man. This is from the blood. Angry, violent, bullying, ready for action, ready to do his job, ready to strike against a terrible enemy. His choleric resonance empowers your celerity and potent disciplines until the next time you feed, adding a bonus dice to any celerity and potence pools you roll.
Oh, that's very nice.
When you turn around to rejoin the others, they're poring over the blueprints, and Wisteria is gone. Wisteria, hunting here is going to prove to be a challenge for you. It's nominally Cam territory. It's the borderline between Cam and Anarch territory. More importantly, it's not your territory. At least the buildings, their interiors are not the streets. Well, whoever's foolish enough to be on the streets at this time of night. Free real estate to every enterprising monster in Buckley. So I'll give you a choice, Wisteria. You may attempt to break into some place, find someone deeply asleep, and take what you need and all the risks associated with it, or attempt to find someone on the street, someone who's perhaps rocking a bit of a stupor after a night of partying, or someone who perhaps doesn't have a warm bed call their own.
We'll get warmed up for tonight. This is going to be a proper break-in. Had Jan drop off the tools, so we'll find a likely place and go ahead and slip into a sleeping person's bedroom. And
Very
taste
well.
the dreams.
Go ahead and make me a dex stealth check, please, which I believe is your hunting roll.
Sure is. With break-in as the specialty. The dice are hot tonight. That's 5 successes.
5. successes. You elect not to choose anything that might be considered major. No office buildings or bars or anything of the like. If you're going to potentially poach on someone else's domain, you're going to skim a bit off the bottom and hope they won't notice. And so, about 20 minutes later, you find yourself creeping through the empty, shadowy backyard of an otherwise ordinary, single-family suburban house. It's nothing special, nothing to be proud of. It's the type of house that you would never choose to live in, that you would only live in because you can't afford to live elsewhere, but there's life inside. You can feel it. You can feel it even as you approach the screen door, deftly pick the lock, and sneak inside. The first thing you hear is laughter. People laughing and clapping. The canned laughter of a 90s sitcom being rerun on late-night television in a lounge room just beyond the door that you enter. And sitting in front of it, snoring, passed out with a half-full beer bottle idling in his right hand, is an overweight man with long, thinning, grey hair. He appears to live alone.
The Jimmy works on the window, and she slides inside. Do a quick listen once inside. Well, fade it out with obfuscate, making sure no one else is in the house or moving around.
It's a bedroom, a master bedroom. You pass by it, peek inside, but the bed is made. No one's sleeping in it. And there are photos on the walls of the man currently snoring in front of the television. He's got his arms around a woman. There are 3 kids. But the house, aside from these photos, offers no traces of life. He lives alone, wallowing in his own sadness and regret.
Fellow. She'll kneel down next to him, take his wrist, and bite.
His blood tastes like mothballs, strangely. There's mothballs with a hint of alcohol. Thank the gods, the man is not drunk. He must have just been tired. There's enough alcohol in his system that you could taste the traces of it, but when you finally withdraw from him and stare down into his sleeping face, your faculties are intact. The man grunts and shifts in his sleep. What is your hunger at, Wisteria?
3.
3. No roll for frenzy. Instead, your hunger goes down to 1. Unless you want to take more. Knowing that you are going up against your sire. And the beast is urging you, if there's any time at all to be a monster, this is it. No?
Oh no. We're going to kill that poor Mr. O fellow later on, aren't we?
So be it. And the beast relents. You turn and are gone. And a few hours later, when the man wakes and shuffles to his bed in the master bedroom, he's none the wiser to the fact that you were even there. On your way back to the others, Wisteria, you fish out your phone, and who do you dial?
Barry. Finished up. Progress? With blueprints? Question mark.
Just look to Robert. We think this is the go?
Yes. We might want Desiree to look over these wards Otherwise, yes.
Good thinking. It takes back to Wisteria. We've gotten in. Just need to check in with Desiree. Remove some magical mumbo jumbo.
Alright. Wisteria will text back. Cool. Call her in. I'll let Baron know it's go time almost.
Affirmative. And I'll call in Desiree.
Rings. For an awfully long time, you think. And then suddenly there's a click. You hear the sound of someone rifling through papers and the clank of glass beakers, and then Desiree's voice, distracted, says, "Hello?
Barry, we're gonna need your help with something."
Calling in your boon already? Ah,
Either
shut.
that, or you can not necessarily boon for. Not necessarily calling in my boon, is giving you a potential to gain another boon with the Baron, but you can look at it that way if you want.
She bowls it over. Ah, shucks. I was gonna test out some rituals tonight, but chance to earn a boon with the Baron, you say?
I'd say so. Pretty big operation.
Ah, I get it, she says. This is about Mr. O. You're making a move on the church, aren't you?
We can talk more about it once we're. Meet me here and we'll talk in person.
I'm not under any orders to assist in that, but I know it's important to the Baron, and so you need my blood magic skills. Is that it?
We'll start off with your advice.
Advice. So there's definitely something that's up my alley. Otherwise you wouldn't be calling. Thinks it over some more. And then she says, "All right, well, you need blood magic done. I'm the one who can do it, and tell you what. We'll consider it a favor from me to you, no exchange of boons. But in return, the Baron offers you a boon for this. You make sure I get what's mine. Understood?"
Understood.
All right, I'm heading out. Where would you like to meet? She says.
Here as soon as you can. And just give him the location we have now.
Hear some more rifling of papers, another clang of a glass beaker or bottle, and then her voice already distant, off in the distance. She says, "I'm on my way," and then there's a click, and she's gone. Wisteria. The Baron. He answers as soon as you dial his number. His voice so familiar, oozing with charm. Wisteria. You can almost see him
Sebastian.
smiling.
It's been a profitable night so far. Are you ready to make it a hat trick?
You have a means of getting to Thaddeus?
I believe we do. Won't be easy, of course.
What did Mr. O have to say?
Oh, a number of interesting things. And she relates the details that he spilled on Thaddeus and the church. And Black's involvement in it.
He listens intently, and that's what tells you he's immediately interested. He doesn't interrupt, he doesn't stop you to ask questions. He takes it all in, and then when you're done... Yes, he oozes. Had a feeling something like that was going down. There's been some rumblings ever since you got back to Buckley. Didn't believe any of it myself, you know. I didn't think they would consider Buckley worth their time, you know. Big city like Melbourne, sure, but there are eyes on you specifically, And I had a feeling once we started to make moves is when they'd step out of the woodwork.
Like roaches.
And like any good roach infestation, we can make use of it to stir up some of the locals. Are you thinking the same way?
You read my mind.
So of course Thaddeus has to go first. Thaddeus, then, is the stepping stone, the first step towards the rest of the plan. But also, I've been waiting for this for a long time, and I'm going to relish it. How do you feel, Wisteria? You talk about stepping stones and plans and how this is all a means to an end, but this is your sire we're talking about. Someone who was, once upon a time, loyal to the Anarch cause, a hell of a Setite, and, under better circumstances, someone who you would have come to love and respect, no doubt.
And how much of that would have been artificial, I wonder? Given how easy it is to smile at the blood do what it does, and suddenly appear like the world to somebody. Here's the thing of it, really. The man had no idea what he was getting into when he chose me as the random token for his movement. The second he knew, he showed the intelligence by running off and hiding in the deepest, darkest hole he could. Smart enough to fear me. So I'll give him that much at least. But to be honest, I respect the fact that you knew him back when he was something. But to me, he's nothing. I was out of his league as a mortal.
Perhaps it's better that way, says the Baron. I just want you to know that I'm not making you do this because there's some petty feud that you just happen to step into and it's convenient to send you to resolve it. I want you to know that things could have turned out different between your sire and I, and between your sire and yourself. He was an Anarch, he was a Setite, but he was an Anarch, and
he was your child, wasn't he?
You're on the phone, and he doesn't say anything, but he doesn't need to. If you were face to face with him, you would see him nod solemnly.
And the silence is all the answer she needs. Well, I'll be honest. You've been a better sire to me than he ever could have been. And it is out of respect to you that I won't treat him like trash. I'll give him a fitting end.
He will
or a
likely
chance to do right, one of the two.
He is not a stupid man by any means. He will probably try to appeal to you, says the Baron. Turn you to his cause. Tell you all about all the horrible things that Baron Wild did. Tell you all about how his own sire cast him aside. But I want you to know.
Well, we'll have so much in common then, won't we?
Indeed. Remember that. And I want you to know that everything that happened, this was all on him. He was an Anarch, like any others, given a fair go in this city. That's what we do here. We were Setites, but we were also Anarchs. But unfortunately, as it turned out, there was the whole problem. See, what your sire most valued was the pomp and the circumstance, Set and Osiris, path of Sutek, fucking snakes and jackals all over everything he owned. Thou shalt not do this, or set commands that. Everything he said and did It was just a show of how faithful, how devoted he was, and how I had spurned the obligations of my blood. Wilde takes a moment, reflecting, obviously bitter. Your sire made the mistake of questioning his betters. How dare he suggest that the snakehead, of all people, lacked devotion to the cause? He didn't understand why anarchs come from all over to make Buckley their home. It is because they desire validation, my dear girl. You know, they tell themselves they want freedom and equality, a kind father figure, instead of a tyrannical prince. And as the Baron of Buckley, I give them what they desire because of my devotion to the cause, the anarch cause, and Set's cause, that you and I and all kindred of Buckley are free. Nobody wants to feel like they're going to fucking church. The pomp and circumstance had to go. And if your sire didn't understand that, he had to go too.
The chief obstacle for any skilled liar is when they stop believing their own lies, really. What is religion but the biggest lie of all?
Call me when it's done, he says.
Will do.
I understand your coterie have already called in Desiree, and I will grant her a boon for offering her assistance, if that is your wish, if she makes it through the other side. But I need you to understand how important it is to me that after all this time, all of the wrongs your sire did, he and his traitorous ghoul are righted. And so I'll be sending someone of my own, just to make sure everything goes down as it should. I trust that won't be a problem.
I rather expected it. One way or another, Thaddeus isn't coming out of there tonight.
And Pierce will make sure of that.
Did you say Pierce?
Who else?
Oh. Indeed. Who else? On her spare phone, she's texting frantically to Barry. Yes. All right. Well, I'm glad we had this talk. I shall enter this with a bit more seriousness than I had prior to our conversation. Out of respect for you. And the relationship that was.
Of all the kindred in this city, Wisteria, says your sire, there is one I'm coming to find that I can trust unconditionally. Do me proud. And then there's a click, and he's gone. And as we end here, we fade out. We fade in again at a old Gothic manor house on a hill overlooking Buckley. A carpet of pinprick-shaped lights stretching out far below. The estate is surrounded by thick primeval wilderness. The house itself, the shingles falling off the roof, the window panes lacking glass, wind howling, whistling through an empty skeletal frame, making little dust devils on the empty wooden floor. The only signs of movement within the house are in a room in the back. A room in the back where several meat hooks hang from the ceiling, where old bloodstains are caked into the brick wall, into the floor. Withered organs and human bones scattered, discarded in the corner. On the wall hangs an enormously large hatchet, and Alexander Pierce, clad as always in his thick black cloak, his face passive, emotionless, reaches out, takes the axe off the table, hefts it, and then slides it into its sheath in its usual spot under the brim of his coat. As he turns and steps out of the gore and viscera caked room, his eyes glimmer. Tonight, blood will be spilled. And that's where we'll leave tonight's session, guys. Well done. You each get 2 experience points, and you may each recover willpower equal to your composure or resolve, whichever is highest. All that remains now is to head to the Church of the Guiding Light, where Thaddeus awaits. But not just Thaddeus. Second Inquisition watches, bides their time, and prepares to make their move. The war for Buckley and all of the kindred within is about to begin. Creatures Such as We is a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat. Creatures Such as We is based on a sourcebook by Brian Holland, available at the Storyteller's Vault. Vampire the Masquerade rules are developed by Onyx Path Publishing and Paradox Interactive and published by Renegade Studios. Portions of the materials are the copyrights and trademarks of Paradox Interactive AB and are used with permission. All rights are reserved. For more information, please visit worldofdarkness.com. The music used in this podcast is composed by Kevin MacLeod, Whitebat Audio, and Ivan Duke, and is used with permission.